Welcome to episode number 12 of the Inside Real Estate Podcast. Today, we have on a very unique guest.
Thank you.
David Williams with
I'll take that.
the Matt Vedic team. For those of you who don't know him, you may consider yourself lucky to get to know him today, or some of you may just feel lucky that you don't know him. But
For sure, 100%.
So we're going to start off with David. Tell us, for somebody who doesn't know you, tell us a little bit about who you are, what you do.
I'm 55 years old. I was born in 1969. I've always been creative spirit, so I went to school for textile design and found myself in real estate when I turned 40, which was kind of an interesting shift, going from a very creative career that was interesting, nobody ever heard of it, and jumped into real estate where people basically then said, oh, great, and then they turned away because they didn't really want to talk to you anymore. But in that 14 years or so since I've been in real estate, it's been pretty incredible. I've done some investing in properties. We've got some Airbnbs. I've flipped some properties. So real estate's been fun. It's been pretty great. And I moved to Kennett Square in 2009. Never thought I'd have a family, but now I've got 3 kids. So yeah, life is good.
Very cool. Let's start off with some rapid fire questions.
Okay, these are fun.
All right. If you could host a show on HGTV, what would it be called?
Oh, if they don't have something like this already, it would be something regarding going to properties that people have flipped and pointing out all the ways they did it wrong. And not to be catty, but more as an educational type of thing, because I think nothing discourages me more than to walk into a property that somebody had the opportunity to fix and to make great, and they didn't do it for a variety of reasons. It could be, that they didn't have the budget, they didn't have the knowledge, they didn't have the desire or the care to do it the right way. But it's really disappointing to me when somebody spends that kind of time and energy and money and doesn't do it the right way. And not to say my way is the right way, but I have a pretty good idea of what makes sense.
I could see you hosting that.
Yeah, because I'm snarky. And so I got that kind of little edge. And so I'd be funny, but, it could be a fun show.
There would be some sassiness to it, definitely.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're going to be buying a house. Would you rather renovate it or build it new?
I think renovate it.
Why?
I mean, new's nice, but because I like the history. I like the... I'm not going to say I'm a preservationist, but I think when I walk into a property, I try to keep as much of the original character as I possibly can, but yet modernize it. So I'm not looking to reinvent the wheel. Sometimes I'm not forward thinking enough with it. I don't like to take out walls if they don't need to come out. So I like to preserve what the property was meant to be, but make it functional for the current buyer.
Would you rather live in your dream home in a crappy neighborhood or a basic abode in an ideal location?
Ideal location, because you can fix basic.
What is one thing you wish you were better at?
Working out more.
Working on that.
Yeah, I'm working on that. Yeah, but I working out more. Gosh, I know. I'm even a pretty good person. I mean, I'm constantly working on things. So, I mean, I wake up every day thinking, what can I make better about me? So I don't know if I don't know. This is probably a better question for Matt or somebody who knows me really well. Like, what should I work on next? Because I do feel like I consistently try to improve myself. So I don't know if there's anything immediate that is a good thing for me to work on at the moment. Maybe being patient. Maybe that if I was more patient, more thoughtful in responses, not as reactive. I think I can be more reactive than, what's the word? Nicole, who used to work with me, she gave me a paperweight at one point. It said, respond, don't react, which is, it's a great thing to keep in mind. Just take time to respond the right way. Don't just react to what you're responding to.
I heard someone say this, that you should try to be the thermostat, not the thermometer.
Okay.
So it basically kind of goes what you just said, respond, not react.
Yeah. Makes sense.
Yeah. I thought that was
react.
I thought that was a good one. I've noticed.
Yeah.
The comment section on your stuff gets
Yeah.
a little spicy.
Yeah, sometimes. Yeah.
All right, let's get into it. So the real estate industry has been going through some wild times since 2020, right? Right now, it seems to be going through somewhat of a significant transitional period.
Yep.
Talk about it.
Well, there's a lot of hesitation, I think. There's plenty of buyers that want to buy. So despite what the media projected about the interest rates, buyers still want to buy. And frankly, I can't wait till the interest rate topic goes away, because it is what it is. The interest rates are going to be what they are, and
you either want to buy or you don't.
You either want to buy or you don't. And I don't know. It just seemed like such a hot topic for the longest time. And yes, it was a big change quickly, but get over it. If you need money to buy a house and you're borrowing money, it's going to come at a cost. I mean, that's just the way life works. And it was really low for a long period of time, which was a great benefit for a lot of people. But it lasted a lot longer than it probably should have. And I think hence now, people with those low interest rates aren't moving. So it's kind of put a little bit of a stall on the real estate, in the real estate world. It's put a stall. And but then it's our job as agents to just be in front of people when circumstances change, because that's the market we're in. It's a circumstantial market. So
right. I kind of look at the interest rates similar to like gas prices, right? Everybody wanted to bitch and moan when they first started going through the roof, but like you still got to drive.
Right.
And it's like, the break-in period of the new normal is the pain in the butt. But yeah, once people get used to it.
I mean, every day you're faced with something different that you probably should change in your lifestyle. Groceries have gone up, so you have to be more thoughtful with your groceries. I mean, our kids, we have a tendency to, I think, waste a lot of food in our house, which drives me a little crazy. But, until you stop and make the decision to monitor it and be more thoughtful about it, you're going to waste food, and then you're wasting money. Yeah. So you just have to pick your battles and figure out, what the easiest way to get to your goal is. And with the current interest rates on houses, you just have to figure out, okay, what can I afford monthly? What's going to work for me? And, just keep an eye on it as rates go up and down. If they go up, you're certainly going to be happy you've locked in at the current rate.
Right. And there's a lot of I see a lot of people, from the mortgage lenders to the agents and everything, people getting creative to kind of either mitigate or deal with. Well, and
you asked about something for me to improve upon, and patience is my thing. I'm not very patient. I like quick results, but I think in the world of finances, in the world of things like that, I am pretty patient. I don't expect to get rich overnight. I don't expect for things to happen quickly financially. And what I've noticed is there are a lot of buyers, particularly first-time home buyers, when they buy, they want the house to be what they want it to be right away. So they don't even give it time. And so they budget in their head, I'm going to need to spend X amount of money right away to get this where I want it to be. When the reality is they're going to be in the house 5, 7, 10 years. Why would you not just take your time to do that? It's not about making it everything it needs to be right away. Budget for it. Do it over the time you're in the house.
Before we get, I do want to talk about the NAR settlement. Okay. But before we get into that, NAR, good thing or bad thing? Settlement aside.
I don't know what they really did for me in the 15 years I've been in real estate. So, I mean, I guess it's a good thing.
I feel like sometimes they're like
NAR is 3 letters, HOA is 3 letters. How do people feel about HOAs?
I
mean, so I
was just going to say HOA. Yep.
It's an organization that gets to regulate a big group of people, which some people get off on being able to regulate other people.
I was always told that them lobbying was one of the big things that they do for the realtors, but what are they really doing?
Well, so the interesting thing that I've seen now, because everything's popping up, everything from A to Z. So, you've got people on both sides of the fence. And what I saw recently was how this is really going to have a enormous impact on Zillow and Redfin. And I said it in a previous video. I said the worst thing you can do as a buyer right now is click on Show Me the House on Zillow. But yeah, I mean, the worst thing to do is now when you're online, click on let's see the house, because you're getting paired up with an agent that you don't know, potentially. You probably don't know. So do you want to just be hooked up with somebody at random, or do you want to be the buyer who takes the time and researches who you want to work with? You know, who's going to be your partner in this, in this big transaction?
Would the industry be okay without NAR?
Sure, I guess so. But, to me, the frustrating part about being a real estate agent is it's so easy to become a real estate agent. And any joker can become a real estate agent. And there's no real regulation, in a sense. There's no regulation on, how well are you doing your job? I mean, yes, there's continuing education every 2 years, which is just a complete joke.
Yes, it is.
We click through it and it just is dumb. I mean, I get more education on a weekly basis being on my team and doing as many transactions as I do. So, I think there's a value in creating a organization that responsible, dedicated, professional agents belong to. So yes, but do I think it should be mandatory? No. I think it almost should be the elite, and you should be able to earn your way into it, to be honest. I think
in that video we saw with Ryan Serhant, he said that they're not part of it. So I always thought that it was mandatory because PAR wanted you to be a part of it. But it's technically, you don't have to be. Like if you didn't join the local realtor association, you just
can't call yourself a realtor then.
Right. Realtor.
Yes. 2 syllables.
Yes.
Realtor.
Yep. That drives me nuts. The NAR settlement. You and I have already had previous conversations about this, but so this is coming right from NAR's website. So the settlement achieves 2 important goals: protecting members to the greatest extent possible and preserving consumer choice. The proposed settlement. So the two things it did, resolves claims against NAR and nearly every member, all state, territorial, local realtor associations, all association-owned MLSs, all brokerages with NAR member as principal whose residential transaction volume in 2022 was $2 billion or below. The other thing they're saying is that it preserves cooperative compensation as an option for consumers looking to buy or sell, as long as such offers of compensation occur off the MLS. And we talked about that. So technically things could remain status quo, right?
Sure.
But after a few conversations I've had with other clients of mine, a lot of people are looking to jump the gun, and now that their brokerage can't tell them that they have to, they can't go below whatever percentage it would be. Their mindset is like, oh, I'm going to drop my prices because I don't think that the buyer or seller should have to pay this. Now, what do you think about that? Because the way I look at it is that they're going to drive, agents like that are going to drive the commissions down almost to a potential point where, it really would open the door for a lot of AI digital transactions to happen. Because if there's not enough money for these people to live off of, if the prices get driven down so much,
Yeah.
I mean, it just seems like, and a lot of those agents may or may not be ones that are actually doing a ton of business. They may be the journeyman, and they're going to hurt the people who are actually the quality agents.
Right. But how long do you think they will be able to stick around?
Good point.
I mean, I don't know how much time I'm going to spend being concerned about an agent who is going to actively discount their services and also potentially harm their clients. I mean, I think I think the reality is if you're trying to sell your house and you've got a goal financially, you can back into that goal anyhow and compensate the people involved, And I think what's interesting about the settlement is it can be customized per buyer that you're working with. So as a seller, you can offer X percent to one offer. You can offer Y percent to the next offer. You can customize it. So it's no longer a published in the MLS, you owe 2.5%, or you owe 3%, or you owe whatever percent you put in there. So it's no longer a standardized number. So,
so are you saying this settlement is potentially a good thing?
I think the settlement is a fine thing. I think it's just another way to think about things. I think it just disrupts the status quo. It disrupts the way it is, and disruption is what actually causes industries and things to get better. So, I think it's all the way you take the data and process it. And frankly, if you are always going to the table looking for your client's best interest, you're going to advise them based on that. So I think it to me is going to be a little bit, it's less regulated in a sense, because now it's not as easy as just looking at the MLS and say, oh, I'm getting paid this. But the control is in your lap now as an agent. You get to go in and talk about your worth and say, and if you're confident and you are what you can do for your clients, you can very easily talk about that and say, this is why I'm worth this. And I don't know, to be totally transparent, I don't think there's a single transaction that I go through where it's as easy as I'm getting paid this and I don't contribute things otherwise. I'm always throwing in something in the transaction for one thing or another, because again, I'm fortunate to be in this profession. I'm fortunate to have learned as much as I've learned. And, some transactions are very beneficial and other transactions are more geared towards learning and not as financially beneficial. So it balances out. But I'm never afraid to contribute to the mix to get it across the table, because at the end of the day, it's about my client hitting their goal.
You were talking about value,
Mm-hmm.
right? So what percentage of agents do you think are out there that can actually articulate their value well?
15 to 20.
Yeah, I would probably say it's around there.
There's a lot of agents I like.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I probably like more than 15 to 20% of the agents out there.
Right. Why do you think that is, that the number is so low? I tend to agree with you.
But they're not trained. They're not trained. I think they go into this business and they obviously, I believe they know what they're doing, and they probably have great personalities, and a good personality can take you a long way. I'm not going to say that I'm the smartest agent in the pack. I know what I'm doing. I do my job well. I would argue to say a lot of my clients like my personality and like my directness and like what I bring to the table. I'm not shortchanging my abilities, but at the same time, I'm not going to sit here and say I'm the smartest agent in Chester County. I'm not. There are some brilliant agents out there. But what I do is listen. And I think that gives me a leg up. I listen to people around me. I listen to other professionals. I listen to my clients. And I think that makes me more marketable in a sense. And so hence I'm confident talking about what I bring to the table and my value.
Where you mentioned training, right? You get your license. On paper, you maybe know more than the general public in some ways, but not as much as you used to, especially with all the technology and internet and websites and information available to buyers and sellers right now.
Sure.
But you still don't know anything until you start actually doing transactions.
Right.
How did you, I know a lot of brokerages offer training,
Mm-hmm.
But maybe everybody doesn't take advantage of it. How did you go about getting to the level of knowledge and experience aside from transactions? What else did you do?
Well, so I've been with Keller Williams since I started in real estate. And, back when I joined, it was very much a growing company. And they offered tons of training. They did multiple events throughout the year, not only in our office, but nationally. And that was always a really fun thing to do. Our whole team would go and we would have a blast. We'd talk to colleagues across the country and it would be an intense 3, 4, 5 days of breakout sessions and different things related to real estate. And it was all agents that were sharing their experiences. And I thought it was a really interesting environment because it wasn't about, this is how it wasn't about somebody being successful and not sharing the way they did it. They would absolutely share it there and they'd throw it out on the table and they'd be like, anybody can use this. And the reason why I think it was such a comfortable environment to do that is because the agents up there sharing realized that there was only a percentage of agents in the crowd that were going to actually employ what they said. And, I'd go to these events and I would leave with pages and pages and pages of ideas. And the first couple of times I went, I was overwhelmed with all this stuff that I had to learn and all the stuff I had to do. And I figured out quickly, thankfully, that every time I left, I focused on 3 things. And I said, I need to learn to do these 3 things well. And once I do these 3 things, I can go back and look at the rest of my notes. So I kind of would filter through what I was doing and say, these are the biggest things that I can, do. And if I learn these, that's great. That'll have the biggest impact on my career. And I think I was just surrounded by, our team has always been really good at sharing ideas and being collaborative with one another. And I think that I was just always open to figuring out the better way to do things. I think that's why I got to where I went or got to where I am.
Is there a lesson you've learned in your time you've been in the business for 25 years?
I can't give you the finger on camera, can I? So no, it'll be 15. And I actually cringe at the idea that I'm now becoming one of those agents that says, oh, I've been around for 15 years. Because I don't care if you've been around for 30 years or 40 years. It's the amount of transactions that you have that really matters. It's how much you've done in the last 6 months that matters, because if you haven't sold a house in the last 6 months, you don't know what the current market is. And the advice you're giving your clients is potentially 6 months old. So there's a lot of other things that matter. But go ahead. What's your question? It's been almost 15 years. In October, it'll be 15.
Is there a lesson that you've learned over your career that is that's really stuck with you, that you think is important and maybe something that other people, if they haven't learned it, should learn it?
Shut up and listen.
Why is that important in real estate? What do you miss if you don't do that?
I mean, in real estate, ideally you're interacting with clients more than you are with colleagues and other things like that. So if you're not listening to your clients, fail. That's just a big fail to me. I mean, you've got to listen to your clients, because your clients are going to tell you everything you need to know, regardless of if they mean to or not. So sometimes they tell you a lot by what they're not saying. And if you listen really well, you can figure that out. I actually think that is the number one reason why I'm successful in real estate, is because I listen to my clients, I get to know them all, and I truly value all of the different personality types. And I think I'm teetering on the edge of really acknowledging that fast, which I just did a buyer consultation a couple of weeks ago where he's an accountant. And I was like, okay, I know what this search is going to be like. And he looked at me and he said, and then his wife looked at me, and I said, no, nothing wrong with that. I said, but spreadsheets, analyzation, data, da. And he said, yeah. And I said, okay, fine. Happy with doing any of that. And you've got to know that about your clients. So shut up and listen. And the same thing with agents too. If you let a somewhat inexperienced agent on the other side of your negotiation talk, sometimes they will give you as much information as you need unwillingly to help you represent your client better in the negotiation, in the transaction. They'll tell you things about their client that, I'm not saying it's detrimental to their client, but it's beneficial to my client. So, at the end of the day, the goal is making sure the buyer's needs are met and the seller's needs are met. So as much as that can overlap is great. Yeah. So you got to listen.
Were you always on a team?
Yes.
The current team you're on?
Yes.
You were always with them. Okay.
Yes.
So do you think that is the best way to go, or can a mentor do the same thing, help you start your career the same way, like a single mentor do the same thing a team can, or is just a team the better way to go?
I am not going to universally say the team is better, but I do think it is a viable option for the majority of agents that are starting. Unless you join an office that is very interactive and very collaborative and very tight-knit, being on your own in the real estate industry without a mentor, it just sounds impossible to me. I know some people can do it, but that's a particular personality type. And that's not the biggest percentage of people out there. That's maybe 10% of the people out there are the personality type. They can do it on their own without anybody, But I think the team environment for me has been such a great thing because you always have somebody there that has either been through the situation or can help you process such a situation or is just willing to listen. And so I wouldn't change my setup in the least.
Is there something unique about your team, and how does that separate you guys from other teams?
I think as our team has developed and I've become a more prominent player on the team, our team is just not hung up on visuals and appearances and things like that. We're not overly showy. I think we're really fun and engaging and direct and to the point, and you always know where you stand with us. So there's never, to me, it just, as much as I love our team, I think our team can be a tough environment because we're kind of down and dirty. I mean, it just is, we get the job done. We know what our responsibilities are, and we just go for it. We don't let a lot of stuff stand in the way, and we have a good time while we're doing it, and we enjoy each other outside of work. And I think a lot of us are open books, and I think that there is a value in being an open book, and you really develop a very tight knit relationship there, where you feel like you're really all for one for all type of thing.
Do you have a specific philosophy towards, working with your clients personally, for how you deal with your people? Like just kind of the way you do things, or yeah.
Well, I'm very upfront with my clients when I meet them. I just, I was focused on buyers from the very start of my career, and that's all I worked on for probably 6-7 years, maybe 8 years. And then I said I'd never do listings, which was silly. And now I'm starting to do more listings and seller appointments and things like that. And largely those come from my past clients. So I've got relationships there. And again, that is, to me, that's where I win. The relationship that I develop with my clients is one that sticks, thankfully, for the most part. I can't connect with everybody. I can't be best friends with everybody, but I think people trust me after the transaction to be able to call me back. So when I got those sellers, that was easy because I already had the relationship there. Where I've struggled is meeting people cold because I'm not a sales pitch guy. So I can't go in and in 45, well, I shouldn't say can't. So can't is not the right word. It's difficult for me to go in and in 45 minutes pitch my value in the sense that this is why you should hire me type of thing. Because I'm more of a, let me show you the value over several meetings. Like I don't know, it's just my style, but I'm getting much better at it. And I met a seller this week and I was more direct with him than anybody I've been in the past. And it wasn't rude direct, but it was just, this is what you need to do to get your house sold. And if I'm sorry if you're surprised at some of these things, but I sold a lot of houses. I know what it takes. And I'm telling you, if we do this, you'll get this. And I think by the end of the meeting, I left and I felt really good. I was also a little nervous because I had been so direct, but I've already corresponded with him and it's fine. Like he just wanted that directness. Yep. And that's a hard thing for people to get comfortable doing.
Yeah, I think a lot of, I was even guilty of it, at some point when I had my license that I, you want to get you want to earn the opportunity, right? So sometimes you're just, you know, I think from what I've learned from the time that I've known you, you are one of the most like non BS people that I've ever met. And there was one thing that we did where I kind of realized like, damn, this guy is just going to tell you how it is.
Can't wait to hear the story.
We were sitting down. I forget your past client's name. The one.
Aaron,
yeah. So you brought her in to have a conversation with you about for sale by owner.
Right.
And you will hear 99.9% of the time that, you know, you shouldn't list your own home from realtors.
Right.
And this conversation was completely, you didn't refute any of her points necessarily. She came in, she said she successfully sold a home.
Mm-hmm.
And then the next time had the opportunity to do it and ended up working with you.
Right.
Right. And you could have spun that and say like, well, you could have done better. No, you were like, it's an option.
It is.
Yeah.
But she made it really clear how difficult it was to do on her own.
Yeah.
But it is an option. You can't.
Yeah, but the one thing I took from that is that she was never like flat out saying like, yeah, I would have done this. She was like, yeah, I did this.
Yeah.
But you didn't. You were just like, yeah, you did a good job. You did all this. But the conversation also made it abundantly clear the amount of time and effort.
Yeah.
And still probably could have netted more with a realtor potentially.
Yeah, and unfortunately, you don't ever know. You can't do two roads at one time. So,
but you do. I mean, I think there are some. We saw that one thing that like stats like even paying the realtor's commission, that however wherever they're getting the stats from, say they still usually net a little bit more.
Right.
So and I think that just comes from the infrastructure that a realtor brings to the table.
Yeah.
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 What? So that goes to like your honesty and straightforwardness, and I just thought that was cool. What's one thing that realtors?
Oh, I really hope this is going where I think it's going because I've got a good answer.
If realtors were telling the truth, they would tell you that you don't hear all the time. Like a lot of times, realtors are what they tell you is based on what is going to put money in their pockets.
Right.
Is there something that realtors maybe don't give the honest take because they're looking for a paycheck?
I don't know. I'd have to think about that one. I mean, I'm sure there is, but the problem is I'm not in that boat.
Yeah.
So it's really hard for me to imagine what that boat is because I mean, I guess it's probably the most common is probably going into somebody's house and as a listing agent and trying to tell them the things that don't work. But I actually did that again last Friday. We walked into the house and it smelled like smoke instantly. I mean, it was it was so smoky. And the house is beautiful. She did a really nice job decorating it. It was a nice floor plan, nice everything. And we were walking through the house and I said, "Oh, do you have a cat?" Because I saw the cat's food on the kitchen floor. And she goes, "Oh, do you smell something?" And I said, "Well, I smell smoke." And she goes, "Oh, bad habit. I smoke in the house." I'm like, "Yeah, got to fix that." I said, "You can't. I mean, as soon as somebody comes in the house that has an aversion to smoke, they're not going to want to buy your house. Like, you got to stop that. If you're going to be listing your house, you got to stop that." Yeah. And I didn't overtly say it without prompt, but she said, "Do you smell something?" And I think she thought I smelled the cat. Like, nope, it's cigarette smoke. But I think what I was going to say is, so I don't know what that answer to that question would be. I think one of the things that I've found most amusing is that I've had several clients over the years that have ended up transacting with another agent, and that's always a weird thing. I've finally gotten past losing sleep over things like that because I mean you can walk down the street and trip over 12 agents. But what I've always done is I've reached out to those clients and I just said, "Hey, curious what happened. Let's talk about this. Like, I really want to know if there's something different I could have done, or if there's, why this transpired. And I go at it with a very curious mind. And so I end up having great conversations. And most of the time, it's that a relationship developed elsewhere, church, or some sort of organization, or they were at a party and they had a conversation about an agent had a listing coming up and they went and saw it. And it's usually some very innocent type of thing. And I always hang up the phone feeling, number one, informed, because we had a really good conversation. And my clients or ex-clients or whatever they are, the people that I know, always feel like, that was much better than I expected it. The thing that amazes me is when I hear that an agent reacts badly to that and sends some horrible email or some, and I've had more people tell me that they've had that experience, and it blows my mind. And I think, and some of these agents are agents that have been around for a while and actually have a decent business. And I think to myself, how in the world do you get away with that? Because I feel like the first time I would react badly, I feel like my life would be over. Of course, I was raised Catholic, so potentially it's the self-guilt that is the problem. But I'm shocked at the amount of agents that react badly to that. Because, it can easily happen. So many agents out there.
Yeah, I've heard those stories before too. Yeah, it's like, as much you can feel however you want to feel, but it's not professional.
Hateful, awful emails. I'm thinking, what are you gaining by this? Except for, maybe you're making yourself feel better because you just yelled at them. I'm like, God, terrible.
So I think that's a nice spot to segue into professionalism. The reason I want to bring this up is because I had pretty freshly started, working with you.
And I don't wear ties and suits or drive a Mercedes. I don't wear a sock. I don't wear a tie. I don't wear a suit. I don't drive a Mercedes.
So let me prep this a little bit. So the first time I actually worked with you, you were like, "Yeah, I'm not that agent that's going to do this." And I did bring that up because I do, you do see agents that just yoga pants, sweat, just like yeah. But I've never seen you show up like a schlub.
That's good. Thank you.
No, but you don't and I knew I was going to hear stuff from you as soon as I'm like, I was waiting for it. But I take you to be very professional, and I don't. So talk about where do you draw the line with attire?
Attire, not a round rubber thing.
Yes,
attire, clothing.
No, I have one of those.
No, you give me a break. So where do I draw the line? I think it depends on my client. If it's somebody new that I'm meeting, I'm not going to dress to the point where I'm uncomfortable, because I kind of feel like if I'm uncomfortable, I'm certainly not going to perform at my highest. So
well, let's take it back to professionalism overall. What does professionalism mean to David Williams?
Professionalism is showing up and being 100% present in what you're doing at the moment. And that means not that. It means not this. It means not doing this while you're with your client, regardless of what you need to do. Now, if a client asks me to schedule another showing, I'll say, I'll pull up my phone and do that. That's fine. But to me, it's being present in your situation. I kind of feel like that is rampant through the entire world at the moment, even outside of professional situations where you can't sit without staring at your phone. And I'm trying to make an effort to be better at it, but there's so much stuff on your phone right now. But I think it's being present, number one, and professional is listening to your client. Making sure that when you show up, your client feels like they're the star of the show. I would guess that the majority of my clients feel as though they can reach me at any moment, whenever they need me. And I'm not going to go as far as to say that they feel like they're my only client, because I think they realize the volume of business that I do. But I would probably lose sleep if any of my clients told me they felt like a number, because that to me is an epic fail in the world of real estate when you start treating your clients like a number. or a paycheck or a dollar amount. And I'll tell you, there are very few times when I meet with a client and say, "Oh, I wonder what commission I'm going to get paid off of them." I mean, it just doesn't even enter my mind. I mean, because my focus is the more people I meet, everything just falls into place.
Focus on the job, the money comes.
Yeah, for sure. And so, when it comes to attire, I'm going to be comfortable. I'm going to wear what I'm comfortable. And I will sometimes will text a client if they've asked to see something short notice and I'm changing my schedule and I'm going to do it. I said, I'll tell them. I will text them and say, look, I don't look the best at the moment. So just understand you're getting rainy Sunday afternoon, David, today in a sweatshirt and jeans. So, if that's okay. And everybody always says yes. Nobody's going to say, no, I want you to put a suit on,
but even the way you approach that is professional.
Well, I mean, it's setting an expectation. And that's another thing too. You just take the time to set the expectation. Even if you're going to be 5 minutes late, if you tell somebody 30 minutes early, you're going to be 5 minutes late, there's no way they're going to be mad. But if you tell them as they're there that you're going to be 5 minutes late, that's not acceptable.
Give me a little bit deeper of an overview of your design background.
Oh, well, I was always artistically inclined. And so I always did a lot of different types of arts and crafts and projects and hobbies and things like that. And so I went to college for architecture, and I quickly realized in my first 6 months at Syracuse in the architecture program that they wanted me to live, breathe, eat, and sleep architecture. And that just wasn't in my gig. I like kind of trying everything. So I got out of that, and I dabbled in probably 3 or 4 other majors before I ended up in textile design, which I like. And I did home textiles for about 14 years. So bedding and bath products, interiors, fabric design. So I'm very inclined to interior spaces and interior design and architecture to a degree.
Would you say that has helped your career or helped you do your job at all?
I think it's a fun part. It's a fun part of what I do because I can help people visualize things at houses. So as we're walking through, I can say, oh, imagine if you did this, imagine if you did that. And that's a fun, interactive part. I completely do not make any money on the creative part. I give it away all the time. So to me, it's my charitable donation for the world because I'm constantly giving away creative advice just because it's easy for me to do and I like it, which is why I had to get out of that. I mean, when I was working with a company and I got a paycheck, it was fine. When I tried to do it on my own, my own business, I was a disaster. So I had to get into something like real estate where that was, kind of structured because I have too much fun with the creative stuff and the house stuff to not just give it out left and right.
Do you ever have buyer or seller when they end up in their next house?
Yeah.
Whichever that is. Do you ever work with them to help them?
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Sarah Getchell.
Oh, okay.
I did her whole kitchen.
Really?
Yes. She wanted a kitchen renovation. And I said, well, let's talk about this. And again, we set expectations and we had a budget and yeah.
For clients that you've done that with, would you say that they would consider it a perk to working with you over somebody else?
I think you should ask those clients that. Okay. I mean, I guess so. I mean, I think they're comfortable with me. They're comfortable. They've learned about me and they've learned about, Sarah was terrific because she just said, I trust you. I trust what you like and just do it. I'm like, well, okay, well, let's set some regulation. Let's set some, guidelines here. So, and she was easy. And she was also wonderfully appreciative and she was just perfect through the entire process. So, she's the dream client in a sense. Mm-hmm. But I've met with another client recently where she said, we just need some direction. Will you come out and see me? And I did, went out and spent about 90 minutes with her. And we talked paint colors. We talked carpets. We talked light fixtures. We talked about how she could change up her space. And she was the sweetest thing. And she emailed me and she said, I just love that we spent 90 minutes and you gave me so many good ideas and we've already done this, this, and this. And, she ended up sending me a gift card because she insisted on paying me somehow. And I'm like, I'm fine. It'd just be nice to see you. But she sent me a gift card, which was really great. Yeah. And I will use it because it's to Savannah Bistro. And that's a nice place to go.
Noted.
Yeah. No, but I mean, I don't know. I think the design part is, for me, it's very, very fulfilling in the world of real estate. It's made my real estate career far more interesting because I've got that part of it. And so, to me, I've flipped a couple houses, and that was a fun process. I've invested in Airbnbs, and I've renovated all those. So that was a great creative process. And then I think my clients, when they realize that I've got that background and I've got the ability now with all the renovations that I've done, I can actually give insights into what things are going to cost.
Sure.
And so that is a more direct benefit. But
the one reason I brought it up was because wanted to ask, do you think realtors across the board could benefit from maybe taking a class or getting a little more educated in that department?
I guess they could if they were interested in it. I wouldn't necessarily.
You don't think it's a huge enough benefit?
No, I mean, could I stage a house? I could. I could stage a house every day of the week. But as a real estate agent, I think one of the things that drives me crazy is when I see realtor, title agent, notary, blah, blah, blah. You've got like 12 titles on your card. Just pick one and do it well. I don't care if you can do all 12.
It's true.
So that's the way I look at what I'm doing. I don't introduce myself to a client and say, I can sell you a house and then I can renovate it for you. And then I can I don't look at these things as multiple streams of income for me. I look at it as, I'm your agent. I'm your agent and I'm going to do it really, really well. And with that comes these other things that you could find interesting or take advantage of. Okay. So to me, it's just, they're extras.
I agree with you. I forget which one I got. I got one additional designation. And then like in retrospect, I wouldn't have done it again. I let it expire. Do they really hold any value?
I can't stand them.
Yeah. I mean, like if you're good, you sound like you know what you're talking about.
Right. Right. Why do you need 3 letters behind your name or 17 letters behind your name? And there's so many of them. Yeah. I can't stand it. And the first thing I do is say, like, there was literally this woman, and some people are going to be able to nail her from my description here, but I don't care. She was a architect, builder, agent. Oh, I'm tapping. See, I'm getting crazy, but this is the energy. This is the energy we needed in this. So anybody who's stuck around for this point, now I'm getting wound up now. So, but she was architect, agent, builder, therapist, literally on her card. I'm thinking, I would go to you for none of them because of that.
Yeah,
that's obnoxious. That's just obnoxious.
Yeah. I think there's a lot of things that also kind of falls in, or I would, I forget what company does it. It's like 5-star, agent. Like there's all these like websites and companies that are out there like, hey, you can pay us to get this thing that says you're good at this or that. But it's like, what does that mean? And you have to renew them every year. It's just residual income for those companies. Yeah. Same thing with the designations. You have to keep them, you have to renew them. Yeah. And I see just people doing it all the time. I'm like, how much weight does it really hold? Like, I'm going to be sitting down with an agent. I'm going to be like, okay, I'm going to want to know about your experience. I'm going to want to see if you sound like you're full of, crap. Yeah. And I want to see if I like you. Yeah. And if I'm sure there's more, detail that I'll have questions on, but if for, high level, if all those things line up, yeah. Maybe there's some business that can be done. I will say, and I would like to give a pitch for this, is that I am a pretty good therapist. That is one thing that I feel like I've done really well because, again, it's a personality thing. So I have a lot of clients that will say, my gosh, you're a good couples therapist, which is funny because I negotiate or I sort of manage when there's like when they split and they want 2 different things. I'm like, okay, we can meet in the middle. We can find this. So it's fun. I like that part. How long have you been a real estate investor? Oh gosh, let's see. When did we buy? So the Airbnbs have probably been around for 7 years, 6 or 7 years. Got the Airbnbs. So that was a 3-unit, and then we bought, it was a 3-unit property. We realized there was another sewer line, so we built a tiny house out back, which was fun. So it became a quad.
And then we bought a twin in town from Matt's brother. So we got that. And then we bought another house that we use as a rental property, but it has a big detached 2-car garage, which we use for a lot of our construction stuff. So we rent that one. And now we've got another one that we are renovating in Kennett on South Union Street that is yet to be determined what that's going to be. Won't be a good Airbnb, might be a rental for a while, but it's a twin. And the other half of the twin isn't as attractive as what we're making ours. So we have to see what we're going to do with that. Okay. But that's been great. I do find it funny when clients ask me about investing in properties and things like that. I'm like, well, you're never going to get from me that you shouldn't invest in properties, because as long as you maintain them, they're always going to go up in value.
Why do you think investing is becoming more and more popular? Like, you hear it more and more from... I didn't want to turn this into an investing podcast, but most of the people we've had on are, have their hands in that, and it seems like just it's becoming a sexier thing these days, sexier topic. Why do you think that is?
Because I think that people are realizing that brick and mortar, it doesn't fluctuate as much, and you have more control in the overall value. I mean, yes, it's going to shift every year, and markets are going to go up and down. But again, as long as you maintain the condition, and if you have the ability to hold on to it, you hold on to it until you want to sell it at a high value. So to me, you've got so much control over that property where you don't have that control over other things that you potentially invest in.
I forget the exact number, but I was reading something that said 95% of agents don't invest.
That's insane. That is absolutely insane. If you are an agent, you get even different tax benefits. So the fact that you don't even consider that is crazy. But I mean, if you're not interested in it, then don't do it. But I think you should be able to meet enough people that would be interested in it that you could partner with them. We started a mortgage brokerage, and so we are half owners in a brokerage, and I know nothing about doing that, but I was happy to put the money in for the people that do know how to do it, and they do a great job running it. So, you find the people that know how to do it and let them do it. I'm happy to say that I'm a part business owner in something like that. Do I contribute a lot to it? No, but
it's neat.
I support the people that do.
Would you want any of your kids to get into real estate as a realtor?
Would I want them to? No. I mean, not
well, no. How people ask those questions.
Yes, yeah. I mean, people have. Yeah. From my experience, the second generation realtor is never quite as good as the first generation. I don't know. That's a blanket. A blanket statement, but I kind of feel like
now that you mention it, yeah,
the parent is the star, and then the kid gets into it, and they're never quite the star. It's fine. I can honestly say, I never expected, and I hope I don't get choked up. I never expected to be a parent, and I never thought I would be a good parent. But I think what I've realized is that I don't put that expectation on my kids. I just don't. I want them to be who they are. I want them to love what they do. I want them to be happy doing what they want to do. I mean, I don't expect. I mean, Ollie and I are a lot alike, which drives me crazy because I look at him and I think, God, I'm annoying. How annoying am I? But I mean, and it's fun that he's artistic, and it's fun that he's creative, and it's fun that he's confident in being a goofball. And I admire all that. And do I want him to be an incredibly productive member of society? Sure. Do I want him to be a real estate agent? God, no. I mean, he doesn't have to be a real estate agent if he doesn't want to be. If he likes it and he wants to check it out, sure. Right. But I'm not gonna inflict that upon him. That's why I find it amusing when parents expect their kids to have their passions. I'm like, give me a break. Yeah. Kids are gonna have their own thing. Just let the kid alone. Just let the kid. Your job as a parent is to foster all the good stuff that's in your kid, not necessarily make them do something you think they should do. That blows my mind. And so I guess from that point, I feel like I'm happy that I'm a parent because I feel like I bring that to the table.
No, I mean, that's a good point. I agree with you there. But I think where I was thinking is like, you know how somebody's like in Hollywood or in the music industry, then
Yes.
kids would you want, because
Right.
it's such a toxic industry.
Yeah.
Do you look at real estate like, hey, something like, yeah, I wouldn't wish this on somebody, or it's just you wouldn't force it on them unless they wanted to?
The latter. So no, it's not a toxic industry. I mean, it's not an easy industry, but it's not toxic.
No.
I mean, there's nothing wrong with the real estate industry. The real estate industry is what you make it. I think my expectation of the real estate industry was a lot worse than the actuality of the real estate industry. So the reasons I didn't want to get into it were a lot worse in my mind than they are in person. So, because you can completely regulate your exposure to the stuff that is creepy in real estate. You know, I've been joking now a lot about my headshot is 10 years old. And I find that to be the funniest thing with agents is when they don't look anything like their headshot. And I've been joking that I was like, I've got to get a new headshot because it is officially 10 years old now. And because it was before I had kids and I look different post kids. But yeah, no. The industry's fine. Industry's absolutely fine. And if one of my kids wanted to get into it, I would be happy to guide them. And we're going to have quite a nice empire to hand over to somebody. And it'd be nice if it was one of our kids, but it doesn't have to be.
As a parent, you teach your kids things.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think it's important, and would you at least educate your kids on the benefits, and if they were so inclined, how to invest in real estate?
Yeah.
Do you think that that's something that more people should be provided education, maybe even in school on?
That's a bigger blanket statement. People should be more educated on finances in general. I think that is one thing that is sorely lacking in this country because everybody's so obsessed with having the newest, the latest, the greatest, the biggest, the best. Everybody's obsessed with all that crap. And it just drives me crazy. Yeah. And I mean, this is coming from somebody who has multiple cars, but that's always been my thing. But there are a couple things that really make my skin crawl, and it's the relentless pursuit of being number one. Can't stand it. Like, I just can't stand it. I was like, number one's great, and being great at something is fantastic, but it comes with a lot of problems too, because then, it just, to me, isn't necessary. And this whole pursuit of, like, I've got to have something better than the next person, and my kids do this because they will, like Ollie is particularly, obsessed with this. Like, oh, is our house bigger? Is that, I'm like, it just doesn't matter. That doesn't matter. Like, it just doesn't matter. And
I think you're right. I think that, like, keeping up with the Joneses, is maybe a little something that people need to just, you worry about you kind of thing, and you'll be potentially better off for it. But is it bad to chase something? Even if if you consider your life a failure, if you don't hit it, maybe that's a bad thing. But is it bad to go after something like that?
No, that's not bad to go after something. And there's never a problem with having a goal. But I think this sort of obsession with number one and what number one means is a little bit short-lived, because you're never number one forever. Somebody's going to knock you off at some point. And so and you know what? And I just don't think it's necessarily be the best at what you do. And then in a sense, you are number one because you're the best at what you're doing.
I saw a video the other day where this guy who's a business coach, and he was saying that he had one of his clients come to him and said, teach me how to get to a 9-figure exit on my business.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, okay, but why do you want that? She was already in 8 figures, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, so that I can, flip the bird to all the people who told me I couldn't do it, or this, that, and the other thing. And he said, do you know how many people are and it was talking about women, not men and women, how many women are in your position and have accomplished what you've accomplished. And it was like 0.02%, which is like the high, super, super high. And he's like, you're already there.
Yeah.
You can already flip the bird.
Right.
I thought that was a good way to look at it.
Yeah. I think that investing in properties is certainly one angle, but I think financially in general, the conversation needs to be had more about, how to manage your finances and how to realistically go after something. And
yeah, it's just, it's missing. I'm like, man, stuff that I've learned over the years. I'm like, why didn't I learn that in school?
Right.
It's like the trajectory of your life will be completely different.
Completely. Yep. Yes.
All right. So we're going to wrap up, but I usually ask everybody that comes on to send us off with a positive message to the world.
A positive message to the world. Positive message to the world. I don't know. Every day you've got to find your joy in what you're doing every day. So if what you're doing doesn't bring a smile to your face, find something different to do. You only live once, and today could be your last day. So make sure you are loving what you're doing. And I think that's one thing that COVID has done for a lot of people. That tenure we had, I think, has caused a lot of people to say, I don't need to be doing this. I'm going to go do that. And I think that's a great thing. I think that it's freed up a lot of people.
All right.
I don't know if that was inspirational, but it is what it is. You threw me on the spot.
So that's the point. No, that was great.
Thanks.
Thank you, David.
This was great.
Awesome. All right. That's a wrap.